I feel like the majority of the changes in my speaking voice have happened because I've done exercises to work on pitch and resonance and things like that. And medication has done relatively almost nothing. And I was doing all those exercises. And so, but I think that if I didn't have that acceptance and that ability to like be okay with listening to my voice, I wouldn't have gotten there. I think that it can be really stressful for trans people to hear about all of these things happening in the news constantly. And speaking for myself, it really wears me down if I'm exposed to that on a really regular basis and have to talk to people about it. I think that being trans is about so much more than just the news cycle that's happening right now and the laws that are going on. And I realized how important it was for people to see experiences of people who are similar to them, because I had really gained a lot from being able to read trans memoirs and other people's experiences online.
Because it affects us, right? Like what we watch and what we listen to and what we read changes our brain. And so if we're constantly seeing negative things about trans people, it can create this negative association. And that's actually like really why I wanted your newsletter to reach a wider audience. Hi, I'm Renee, and I'm a gender-affirming voice teacher. And welcome to Speaking Freely, an interview series about trans voice, trans advocacy, and trans liberation. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Rey Katz, a transmasculine, non-binary writer and advocate, and trans voice student just like you.
Just let me.
Rey is the creator of Amplify Respect, a weekly newsletter for trans people and allies that skips the relentless news cycle and focuses instead on compassion, understanding, and joy in everyday trans life.
That sounds nice.
They've been published in HuffPost, and their writing has a way of making people feel like they're not alone, whether they're just starting their gender journey or well into it. Rey is also a student in my online course, Masculinize Your Voice Without Testosterone. I've had the privilege of watching them grow over the last 5 years, both as a writer and as someone building a more confident relationship with their voice.
I'm so proud of them.
In this conversation, we talk about what it's like to discover your voice as a writer, what Rey's experience on low-dose tea has been like for their speaking voice, and spoiler, it's not the story you usually hear, and how a mindset shift changed everything for their trans voice practice.
What I do requires a certain mindset.
If you've ever struggled to feel okay about your voice as it is right now, or if you're curious about what voice training actually looks like from a transmasc student's perspective, I think you're going to find a lot in this conversation. Here it is. Hi, Rey. Thank you so much for joining me on Speaking Freely. How are you?
I'm doing great, Renee. It's great to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you because we've known each other now for 5 years, I think, at this point.
I think so. It's been a long time, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I've got to see like a lot of your journey, and I've got to see you grow. It's been really wonderful. So we have a lot to talk about, but I wanted to start talking about your newsletter, which is kind of the reason why I asked you to come on here. You write a weekly newsletter called Amplify Respect, and I wondered if you could tell me and the audience a little bit about it and how you got started.
Absolutely. Amplify Respect is a newsletter to uplift and inform trans people and allies about, we do some deep dives into some of the issues facing trans people, but we also try to really keep it positive and focus on ways the community are helping each other and help people grow and understand each other better, respect each other more. So that's what it's all about.
How did you decide you wanted to start writing this newsletter?
It started as more of a personal blog where I was sharing my own stories about my experiences. And as I got into my gender journey, I started writing about that and becoming more comfortable sharing that with other people online. And I realized how important it was for people to see experiences of people who are similar to them, because I had really gained a lot from being able to read trans memoirs and other people's experiences online, blog posts. It really helped me understand a lot about myself. So I wanted to help put that out there for other people as well. And at some point I got a little more ambitious. I wanted to get more of my writing published. So I started sharing my experiences to a wider audience and sharing that more broadly.
Amazing. I'm a subscriber because I really like that it's always positive. I know a lot of like trans newsletters can sometimes focus on like the tough stuff, which is also valuable and important, especially now we need to like be empowered to know what the heck is happening to our rights. But I really like that you focus on compassion and hope and respect rather than that like relentless stress cycle of trans news. And I just wanted to know, like, where does that philosophy come from and how do you hold on to it when things get a little tough out there?
That's a good question. I think that it can be really stressful for trans people to hear about all of these things happening in the news constantly. And speaking for myself, it really wears me down if I'm exposed to that on a really regular basis and have to talk to people about it. I think that being trans is about so much more than just the news cycle that's happening right now and the laws that are going on. So there are some amazing resources and reporting that is already happening about the state of laws in the US, for example. Erin in the Morning does a really great newsletter about all of those events daily. But then what I'm offering is something where if you don't want to see all the news, you don't have to. Not that you need to avoid it, just that there's a lot to learn about being trans that is, you know, just everyday life and joy in everyday life and things like that. So that I believe that's important as well as the news.
Absolutely. Balance. I love that I can like count on your newsletter to just be like a nice thing to read. I don't know what the temperature check is on people right now. Like, are people reading newsletters a lot? Like, I'm a big newsletter reader. I subscribe to a ton of newsletters and it's like part of my morning routine is to like read all the little articles and things. What has the like reaction been to your newsletter? Do you hear from subscribers other than me?
I do sometimes. It's very nice to get emails from people because they get the emails in their inbox. Sometimes they reply and it's just like I've, sent an email to a friend sometimes who I don't know at all, but that's fine. And I think there's some people who really like newsletters, like you and I. There's some people who mostly watch videos or listen to podcasts or something. So, it's definitely different audiences, but yeah, there's some people who are into it.
I will just say, this is not for you, Ray, but for those like watching this or listening to this interview, like if you don't get your information directly from someone, if you're like relying on your algorithm to give you information, like your Reels or your TikToks, I'm begging you to sign up for a bunch of newsletters because the algorithm can never take it away from you. And speaking from experience, my TikTok used to pop off and then things changed and now it doesn't pop off anymore. And the people who followed cannot find my information unless they found me on other platforms. And so newsletters are like, in my opinion, a really radical way of trans people connecting with each other and maintaining these connections when these huge companies who do not serve us take our access away. And I wanted to ask you about your switch away from Substack. Are you comfortable talking about that?
Substack has a history of being transphobic and financially supporting transphobic creators. I started my newsletter on Substack because it was a free and easy way to get started, and I wasn't really aware of what was going on the platform politically. It's just kind of gotten worse, and so I switched to another newsletter platform called Ghost. Not necessarily tied to that one, it's just a way for me to send content more directly out to my subscribers. Just like you were talking about, Renee, there's no algorithm getting in the way. Substack kind of takes newsletters and turns it into a social media algorithm a little bit. And, they have their own app and everything. So I've switched away to I just send directly to people's emails and post the posts on the website. So it's more straightforward and we don't have big tech getting in the way.
Yeah, I have definitely received comments from people whenever I advertise my newsletter that are like, emails for boomers. Okay, but maybe there's still something to that, I think email has not died yet, personally. I don't know if you agree.
I have folks of a variety of ages subscribe to my newsletter, And I would say that maybe email replies are more popular with certain older generations. So I do get to hear about some of the,
Sure.
very interesting stories from the history of their lives sometimes. But yeah, it's I think that email is not necessarily for one age group or another. I know there's people of all ages subscribed to my newsletter.
Same. Yeah, I would love to see more, especially younger generations, getting into newsletters so that they can take control of the media that they're consuming, because it affects us, right? Like what we watch and what we listen to and what we read changes our brain. And so if we're constantly seeing negative things about trans people, it can create this negative association. And that's actually like really why I wanted your newsletter to reach a wider audience, because I think we need like more positive, obviously, trans representation, but also just like more norm core stuff. Like you put out a beautiful newsletter just a few days ago about bird watching and bird listening. And I was like, yes, like this is what I want, like the trans birding content,
I really love that. I that's the kind of content that I really appreciate seeing online, like trans people talking about stuff they're passionate about and, enjoying nature, enjoying life in general. So yeah, I'm really glad that resonated with you.
Yes, it did. And me too. I like just trans people's everyday lives. It's such a beautiful thing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what you wrote about in that article, actually, which was about your voice training journey. So we met because you signed up for one of my trans voice courses back in 2021 when I first launched my very first course, Trans Vocal Exploration, which no longer exists because I retired it. So I just wanted to talk to you about your experience on your
voice
journey. So how has that gone for you over the last 5 years?
Absolutely.
Big question.
You've been a huge part of my voice journey over the last 5 years. And I did start with Trans Vocal Exploration, the course that doesn't exist anymore. It still has a special place in my heart because it really helped me understand a lot about my voice. The biggest thing that I learned that I wasn't exactly expecting to learn was that my voice can be okay the way it is now. Like I came into the course expecting to learn how to change my voice and sound completely different. And a lot of the exercises were about just observe your voice as it is now. Listen to what you are actually saying. And this combined with going to the office hours, talking to other trans people, understanding that there's other people who are going through a similar journey, that really, really helped me understand that I could accept my voice a little bit more. Like I really didn't like my voice, which is why I was looking for vocal training. But then I realized, actually shifting my mindset so that my voice is okay and I can speak with it was really, really powerful.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I think people might hear that and think that that you can't also have a change, but something that for clarity, I guess, in my courses, I always say that two things can be true at once. You can love yourself exactly as you are and work towards making a change. And I think that it just creates a more positive voice training experience if you're not trying to fix a broken thing, but you're just becoming yourself more and embracing self-love at the same time, which is obviously hard when you're experiencing dysphoria. Can you speak a little bit more about what that acceptance piece was like?
Yeah. And although I was working on acceptance, I was also still trying to change my voice. I don't mean to imply that, I accepted my voice and then never wanted to change anything about it. I think saying both is true is a really good way of expressing that. So as I was learning to listen more carefully to my voice and kind of actually hear it instead of just kind of dissociating away and ignoring what my voice possibly could sound like, I was also doing work to try and change it as well, to lower the pitch of my voice slightly, talk closer to the bottom of my range, and express emotions differently, and also work on resonance, darker resonance. And I was doing all those exercises. And so But I think that if I didn't have that acceptance and that ability to like be okay with listening to my voice, I wouldn't have gotten there.
Okay, that makes total sense. Yeah, because the listening part is, it can be a really useful part of training because then you can see how far you've come. But if it's causing you so much distress and dysphoria, it's not so pleasant.
I also did the Masculinize Your Voice Without Testosterone course, which I feel like builds on the content in that first course. So I really appreciated the exercises and the additional focus on things in that course as well.
I'm really glad to hear that that was helpful. You mentioned to me that there was a moment when you listened to your old voicemail recently and noticed how much your voice had changed. Can you tell us about that?
My partner dialed my phone to find it. It was lost somewhere in the house. And I heard the voicemail message, on his phone. And it was so high and squeaky. I could not believe it. I was like, did I used to speak like that? I was really like laughing. I couldn't even find my phone. I was laughing so hard. But, I think that I hadn't really realized that I speak in a different way because it happened so gradually.
Yes, changes happen so slowly and we're so close to it that you sometimes don't notice the change happening. So I'm really glad you had that experience. But this is why I tell people, look, make recordings even if you don't want to listen to them. Just make them and put them away, and maybe someday you'll want to listen to them, So you mentioned also to me that you have been on low-dose T for almost 2 years. Are you still currently on testosterone?
I'm still on low-dose testosterone.
Cool. First of all, congratulations. Love when trans people get hormones. But you said to me that your voice didn't change as dramatically as you had expected on T, and that voice training was like one of the pieces that made a difference to your voice. And I don't think this is a story that we hear a lot about. I just put out a video review of the Transmasculine voice book, and in it said that about 15% of the respondents to his survey did not experience a pitch drop on T. And we just don't hear people talking about it. So I just would love to hear a little bit more about what that experience was like taking T and maybe not getting exactly what you were looking for. I don't know if you started and stopped it. Please speak on that.
That's really interesting that 15% of people don't experience a pitch drop. Before I started testosterone, that was actually one of the biggest changes I was interested in. I learned about, all the different changes that might happen, like changes in hair and skin and everything, and voice. And, I was kind of promised that it would lower my voice. And I started so I used the gel, and I started taking it, and I noticed some changes that I was happy with, including my anxiety was a lot better. It really helped me feel better and more present in my body, less anxious, more settled, less emotional. So that was the biggest, that's the benefit that I'm really most grateful to have from being able to be on this medication. And yeah, I was kind of expecting my voice to change a lot and was kind of worried about that a little bit. Like I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to, sing anymore or, talk the way I'm used to talking. I was worried that there was gonna be a big change, even though I was also kind of looking forward to it. But it didn't really happen. I would say that my voice, the lower part of my range has dropped slightly. Like, I don't know if it's like one or two notes on the piano or something like that. Maybe like if I work at it, I can get a little lower when I'm, singing along to songs on the radio or something like that. And that's cool. I like the feeling of being able to sing along with more singers or something like that. But yeah, I feel like the majority of the changes in my speaking voice have happened because I've done exercises to work on pitch and resonance and things like that. And medication has done relatively almost nothing.
Oh, that is so fascinating. I think, yeah, because what you just described, like being afraid about singing and losing your voice, those are everyone's common concerns, but very few people are like, what if nothing happens? And have you ever thought about, I'm not a doctor, just so everybody knows, have you thought about changing the dose or taking more, or like how was the decision made to stay on the dose you're on now?
I feel pretty comfortable on the dose that I'm on now. It's possible that if I raise the dose that my voice would change more. I did actually have this conversation with my endocrinologist, and I decided to stay at the same dose. I'm not exactly sure I can explain entirely why. I'm just comfortable with the way the medication makes me feel at that dose.
I love that. I love autonomy. When what I mean, like trans people just choosing what works for them. I also kind of love this because I frequently think about taking low-dose T a lot, to be honest. And I love the idea of like slow changes that you can sort of monitor and start and stop. And I think people think hormones are like a light switch or something, like it's all or nothing, but you can just try a little hormones as a treat and then stop or go down or go up. Like it's really not as dramatic as people think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. The actual experience that I've had taking hormones is so much less scary than what I thought beforehand. Before I started testosterone, I was on birth control pills for years, which is also taking like a low dose of hormones daily, right, basically. And, I had one experience when I was on that medication, and like now I'm having another experience when I'm on low dose testosterone, but like it doesn't feel all that different to me. And like one of those things is really normalized, and the other is like we're supposed to feel really scared about it, but it's not, it turned out to be not that scary.
Even argue that like it could be more normalized for other types of medications. Like I have lots of friends who were like super scared to start antidepressants. And I'm like, just do it. Like, just start. I have had every experience with medication. Like I have taken medications that I got dependent on for like 5, 6, 7 years and took forever to get off of. I've had medications that caused me seizures when I tried to get off of it. I've had the worst possible experiences with all medications. And still, I think it's worth trying because you can always stop. Like, even though I've had bad experiences, it doesn't stop me from trying to live a better life through medication. I think there is nothing wrong with that. And it's not as scary. You can always stop taking medications, even if it takes a little bit of time. That's my thoughts on that. Thank you for letting me have this soapbox, Ray. I just want all the trans people to take their antidepressants if they need them, for goodness sake.
I hope that all trans people have access to a doctor who can prescribe the medications that are most helpful to them.
I want that for everyone, in fact, not just trans people.
Good point.
Preach.
Everyone.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, look, if we're going to get into it, like that's like being like all this trans advocacy, people don't realize that it's like for everyone. Like it's not just for trans people. When we're advocating for people to have access to medication and access to medical professionals, it benefits everyone. So anyway, I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah. A lot of gender-affirming healthcare benefits cis people as well. And, all of these kind of anti-trans limitations on what people can and can't do, that affects cis people as well. For example, cis women who have short hair might get discriminated against because they might look trans even though they're not, and so if you have... Like, it's really important for everyone to have rights and to exist in public safely. And, it's not just for trans people.
Yes, actually, I'd love to bring the conversation back to your writing. And this is right in line with what we were talking about. You wrote, like, probably your most read article was for Huffington Post. Is that right?
Yes.
About an experience of harassment that you experienced in a public washroom.
Yes.
Can you speak on that a little bit? I know like that I read the article and it was so complicated to me. Like I don't know, I really felt the nuance of the situation I'll let you tell the story and then we can talk about it.
I wrote a personal essay that was published in HuffPost And it was about my experience being harassed in a public women's restroom. And, I was in the restroom, in a stall, minding my own business. And a man steps through the door and asks, "Is there a male or a female in here?" And it freaks me out. I was really scared because this isn't something that normally happens to me, and it's just alarming to have a stranger question you while you're on the toilet. So yeah, so I say kind of in this really nervous voice, "Hello," and the man is like, "Oh, you're a female, my bad," and walks away out of the restroom. And I'm in the bathroom, I'm still shaking because I'm I didn't know where that was gonna go. It turned out to be not that confrontational. It wasn't violent. It was just people talking to each other, but I didn't know that. That's kind of why it bothered me so much. So I wrote this whole piece about it, about how I had cut my hair short and I was wearing kind of men's clothes, and so looking like that and using a bathroom becomes more challenging. And I got a lot of response from people who actually from a lot of women who have short hair and experience this kind of discrimination in bathrooms a lot, as well as trans people who find it difficult to use bathrooms just because other people can't mind their own business and just leave people alone if they're not bothering anyone else.
Literally, let us pee, Mary. It's so
Exactly.
inconsequential. It doesn't affect your life in any way. The bathroom thing really makes my heart rate climb and my blood pressure also climb, because I think about I often think about the intersection of causes that or of concerns that trans people, parents, and disabled people have. We're all kind of similarly marginalized sometimes. And in the bathroom situation, it's there are so many cases in which if you're a parent, let's say you're a man and you have your daughter and you have to take her to the bathroom, you take her to the men's room. You know what I mean? Or parents have to take their children that might be a different sex than them to the bathroom. And so if your concern is men in women's, with little girls in the bathroom, that situation happens all of the time. Or if you're caring for somebody and, you have to help them with the bathroom, the whole bathroom witch hunt, it forgets that there are many, many, many situations in which multiple genders have to exist in the bathroom at the same time. So it gets me really angry to think about it.
I completely agree. Yeah. It's really frustrating that people think this is an issue and that they think that trans people are some kind of violent threat when this has basically never happened. We do not see stories of trans women attacking anyone in the bathroom. It just does not happen. And
period.
It is already illegal to attack anyone in the bathroom, assaulting
or outside
someone.
of the bathroom.
Exactly. We have laws against this. We do not need an additional law to police what people need to look like specifically so they can pee.
No, we don't. And I long for a world in which all bathrooms are just single stalls with a giant sink outside in the middle. I think that's the way all bathrooms should be.
Those are really nice, yeah. There's one at the San Francisco airport. They have a men's room, a women's room, and then an all. And it is just single stalls, and the sink is in the middle, like you said. Really nice.
It's becoming more popular here too, where the washroom is just a big sink and a row of doors with either a urinal or a toilet on the door. So you just decide if you're using that or whichever one. And I love it. It makes for a much more comfortable experience. But this experience, I found it so complex because your voice not sounding traditionally masculine was what diffused the situation. That would have left me with a lot of difficult, complex feelings about myself. I don't know if you had a similar experience.
I had so many complicated feelings because Yeah, there was so many things going on there. Like you said, there was the way my voice sounded, there was the way my voice sounds when I'm scared and when I'm trying to be compliant with someone else. And then there's the way that I look, there's my hair, I was wearing a hat and cargo pants and a jacket. Like these are not, these are kind of unisex things, I would say. I wasn't like, I wasn't wearing drag king makeup or something. Like I could imagine
Or a
ways in which
three-piece suit or something.
right. It was not that on the edge of things. But yeah, I guess I know from talking to a lot of other people that this situation happens to them pretty often, especially for people who are gender nonconforming. And so I guess I felt so strongly about it because it was pretty much the first time that had ever happened to me. And so I was kind of learning about it and figuring it out. And it definitely had me feel pretty complicated about, like, is it safe to express myself in the way that kind of feels comfortable to me if I'm around supportive people? But then if I'm around these people who are not supportive and who just want me to get out of there, how do I stay safe? How do I kind of maintain both of those things?
Totally. I also find there's like the question of, okay, is the way I'm expressing myself feels very gender nonconforming to me, but if no one is seeing anything except a woman, am I the one who has to change? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think about this a lot because I feel like I benefit from sort of a cis passing safety in the world. Like, even though I'm like 5'9" and have had top surgery, like people still just madame and ma'am me all the time. Maybe with the exception of like certain countries where I'm sort of outside of gender norms a little bit more. But then when I like do get a little he, him action, sometimes it's like very affirming. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm not leaning hard enough into, I don't know. So I feel like there's no vacuum in which you're allowed to just like ask yourself what you want, because everything happens in the context of society, which involves these things like safety and other people's gender perceptions. And I find that very sad, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that expressing yourself is a conversation between us and society, and there's no way to separate that out. I realized I didn't say yet, I'm a transmasculine, non-binary person, and there are definitely people who have read that essay and still think I'm a woman.
They think you're a trans woman?
No.
When they read,
they think I'm
what?
a cis woman. Yeah, it's
reading comprehension. Come on now.
I think that it's because so many cis women can identify with that experience of being harassed for being gender nonconforming. So the kind of shape of the experience is the same. But I guess one point I want to make is that, I'm actually a transmasculine person, and it's not reasonable for me to use the men's bathroom in most cases. So, I think this is a really common experience in the trans community among my friends and the people I know. We use the women's bathroom. And it may not be obvious to someone who hasn't been in that particular situation that happens a lot.
100%. Yeah, it's happened to friends of mine while I was with them in the washroom. Like, everyone has had this experience on the trans-masc spectrum, I think, which is really sad. Okay, we're really running out of time here. This has just been such a fascinating conversation. I just wanted to ask you one more question about like how your writing in Amplify Respect has sort of intersected with your gender journey, or has it not?
Absolutely. I think that Amplify Respect has grown with me as I've grown and learned things about my gender. A lot of times what I find interesting talking to friends or people in the community, I'll go and do a deep dive and research about that and try and share that with the audience as well. Sometimes people ask me to do like kind of basic definitions and stuff. I'm actually trying to get away from that a little bit, because I have also heard from trans people, we want to hear, things that are not Trans 101. We want to have these deep dives into more interesting topics. And I feel that too. So I'm kind of always looking for interesting topics that trans people might be interested in. And some of them are from my own experience, and some of them are collaborations with other people, and some of them are just, things I've heard about and do a bunch of research to learn more about. So I think a lot of that has been similar to what I've done on my gender journey as well, which is learn about what's possible and what other people are doing and see what resonates with me, and then share it with the world.
Well, I'm really looking forward to reading more. And I'm going to continue reading every week, obviously. So this show is called Speaking Freely, and I always like to give my guests a chance to speak freely at the end on something. So I wanted to know, what's one thing that you wish more people understood about trans and non-binary voices, be it their speaking voice or their writing voice or otherwise, that you haven't seen enough of in the world?
Well, I wish there was more trans representation in media, trans people sharing a variety of voices. I really liked, I'm not going to remember the actress's name, but there was a scene in Pose where the actress, who's a trans woman, sings a song, a duet, and her voice is actually lower than the man she's singing it with, I think. But she sounds beautiful and feminine, and that really stood out to me as a really wonderful example of trans representation of someone's singing voice that, is a woman's voice and sounds really good. I think in general, just being able to hear more voices, just showing what our bodies can do, and accepting those as non-binary voices or men's voices or women's voices is just really important, so people have a better idea of what's possible.
I love it. Thank you so much. And if people want to subscribe to Amplify Respect, where can they find that?
You can find Amplify Respect at amplifyrespect.com.
Easy, and I will link it below. Thank you so much, Rey, for your time today. I really appreciate chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Renee. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I really appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Bye. Thank you so much to Rey for sharing their story and their voice with us. You can find a link to Amplify Respect and Rey's HuffPost essay in the description below. And subscribing is completely free, but you can also upgrade to paid if you love what you read. Seriously, go subscribe. It lands in your inbox every week, and it is just a genuinely nice thing to read. No doom, no stress cycle, just thoughtful, uplifting trans content. In a world where algorithms can take your community away overnight, a newsletter is radical.
How things have changed.
Go do it. As Rey mentioned in our conversation, their voice journey started with my course, Trans Vocal Exploration, which no longer exists. But the work we did there lives on in Masculinize Your Voice Without Testosterone, my course for transmasculine and non-binary folks who want to build a deeper, darker, more resonant voice, with or without hormones. It's fully online and self-directed, so you can go at your own pace and in complete privacy. You can find more information at the link below or by scanning the QR code on your screen.
It's there!
If you love this interview, check out my Speaking Freely playlist where I talk to voice practitioners, trans artists, educators, and advocates from all over the world about the intersection of voice, identity, and trans liberation. Last month, I spoke with Bernie Wagenblast, a trans woman and one of the voices of the NYC Metro. Who would you like to see featured in this series in the future? Let me know in the comments below. That's all for today. I've been Renee, and I hope this helps. Am I in the frame?
Yes, you are in the
I'm
frame.
ready for my close-up.
Yes.
This is the only truck that's going to pass today, I think.
Yeah,
I asked them all to stop.
exactly. Hopefully they listen. Hopefully Tone Mater helped out in that respect.
Sorry.
Straight up froggy.
Yeah, a little bit.